There is rampant, basically criminal levels of corruption in this government. The very people that Trump brought in to drain the swamp, they're looting D.C. It's like every person in this cabinet is a complete disaster. People say, are we going to get the 2016 Trump back? Oh, I think this is 2016 Trump. 2016 Trump is a marketing strategy. It's like the fucking green M&M.
Nick Fuentes just blasted the Trump administration for being totally corrupt, and in this clip he gets into some of the ways that Trump has tried to take the focus off of the worst disasters in his administration and what that means for Americans and why we should look the other way when it comes to following Trump's promises in the future. So let's watch. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Now here we are for the second term. In what way, shape, or form has any of this gotten better? We closed the border. That should be a given. But the mass deportations are not materializing. We're deporting about 1,000 people per day. How many are bringing in on H-1B visas? How many people are being naturalized? It looks like there are proposals to double the number of H-1B visas. There have been more naturalizations this year than last year. More naturalizations under Trump, not even in a full year, than under a full year of Joe Biden and his terminal year in his term. So what are we actually doing here? What are we doing about the problem? People look at these types of statements as though Trump is saying them as the candidate running against an incumbent, but he's not. He is saying these things as the sitting president who has been here for a year, who has been in power off and on for 5 years, who's been around for more than 10 years. And when you read a statement like this, and it's not the first of its kind, and you've been reading statements like this for 10 years, you begin to wonder, when is this actually going to happen? Where is the follow-through? When will there be a delivery here? A tangible win on any of this? And then you realize that this is the strategy. This is actually their intentional playbook. They're deeply conscientious of this. And this is how it goes. What is happening right now, obviously, is that Trump is more unpopular maybe than ever. Certainly he's more unpopular than at any other time in this second term. His favorability is in the toilet. His approval is in the toilet. Specifically, his approval on immigration and the economy is very bad. For the first time in years, voters actually favor Democrats on the economy over Republicans. People blame Trump for the state of the economy more than they blame Biden. Any way that you cut it, Trump is in real trouble with these numbers. Numbers polling his own base, polling Republicans, independents. Any way you cut it, it is catastrophically bad. And he has only himself to blame.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with this. He tries to obfuscate and bring up red herrings and distractions to try to point you away from it. This recent statement, and to be clear, what Nick's talking about is a statement regarding Trump's supposed decision to halt all illegal immigration, or all immigration in general, actually, not illegal immigration, obviously, but all immigration from third world countries. But as we broke down in the previous video that I reacted to, Nick, it doesn't seem like they've even followed through with that. Instead, they've only halted the immigration processing for only immigrants coming from Afghanistan. And by the way, there were only about 15,000 of them coming in last year. Just a small drop in the bucket in terms of total immigration. And a review of green cards for people to potentially revoke that are from supposedly third world countries, of which that isn't well defined in legal code. It's only 19 countries that is even in the scope of this, and there's no guarantee they're actually going to revoke the green cards or deport those individuals. But right now it doesn't seem like Trump is really following through. It does seem to be like this is a bluff to get people excited. And Nick's right about immigration. I mean, more immigration or less deportations have happened under the Trump administration than happened under the Obama administration. It's something that, you know, a lot of Trump's fanboys don't want to admit, but that is the truth too.
We're cutting Medicaid to pay for corporate tax cuts. Doge was a total failure. We're bombing Iran. Prices have not gone down and the economy has not recovered. The tariffs have been a complete disaster. There are mounting signs all over the economy. We're in a real estate bubble. Consumer spending is slowing. The job market is frozen. They're not even releasing the jobs report in October. On top of all that, they didn't even release the Epstein files. So it is a total disaster. That is why he's unpopular, and it's self-inflicted. It is because rather than keep his promises, all that this administration has done is enrich the people that are in it. There is rampant, basically criminal levels of corruption in this government. The very people that Trump brought in to drain the swamp, they're looting D.C. They're taking everything that isn't nailed down practically. They're fucking stealing. They are corrupt. That is all these. Why do you think they brought these people in? Someone like Howard Lutnick and David Sachs and, these people, they are criminals. So this is, and it's important to understand this, contrary to what the true believers, the plan trusters say, this is not actually the result of a political system that is so difficult to overcome that, they can't do it in a matter of 5 years. No, they're not even trying. It is actually for a lack of trying that it is this way.
I think it's a combination. I think it's fair to say and put culpability on Trump that it is for lack of trying, but the system is set up to defeat anything that roots out the deep state, ends the endless war, the grand, wealth transfer schemes to big corporations. That isn't something easily solvable, but it's not like when the Republicans get the reins of power, when they win Congress, when they win the presidency, they even try to do this. They'll talk about endlessly on the campaign trail, and when they're not in power, hey, we have to shut down the IRS and shut down the Department of Education. They never do that. They never abolish the FBI or abolish the CIA, even when sometimes they do that when out of power. They just act like it can be reformed. You can reform the swamp. You don't have to drain it. We'll just put a better guide to steer the swampy ship. That's what they pretend. Now, I will commend Nick. I think he's right. Doge turned out to be a disaster. It didn't save $2 trillion in federal spending. Quite to the contrary. There was something like $9 billion in cuts that were codified, but completely offset by a bigger Pentagon budget, a bigger spending spree in general, the big abominable bill that will add $5 trillion to the debt when we're already in a debt crisis and $38 trillion in debt. When it comes to the Medicaid cuts he talked about, though, that's not quite accurate. It's not that that's being cut for corporate tax cuts. Those both things happen in tandem. It's not one or the other or one affecting the other. The corporate tax cut was slashed in 2017, and before that, the United States had the biggest corporate tax rate in the world for, I think, like 10 years prior to that. And that's the reason many U.S. companies were simply packing up and going overseas. Why wouldn't you? If, there were so many beneficial tax benefits over there, and Nick complains a lot about losing jobs to other countries, well, that is a big part of it. It was the high corporate tax rate acting as the incentive for that. So that is why that happened.
They're not trying. It's a joke. Kristi Noem is a joke. Kash Patel is a joke. Pete Hegseth is a joke. People allegedly are in there blackmailing him. It's like every person in this cabinet is a complete disaster. And the reason it's like this is because it's all patronage. Trump got in office to stay out of jail. He had to cut deals to get money. And now that he's in, he had to reward the donors by allowing them to pick the cabinet members, reward other people in the party with these patronage posts. And now this is what we're getting.
Yeah, it sure does seem like he let Miriam Adelson pick his entire cabinet, right? With the only apparent litmus test, meaning that you have to support Israel. That's the case about all of his cabinet level officers. That was the litmus test. And think about that. Think about applying that standard above anything else. Think of any other arbitrary criteria. Were they all male? No. Were they all female? No. Were they all, Democrats? No. Some were, like Tulsi Gabbard. You only had the litmus test of Israel first to fill this cabinet. That is the truth.
So this is an utter and complete catastrophe. There's no deportations. We hit the H-1B cap. We're in a war with Iran. We're going to go back very soon. It's just like one cataclysm after the next. Here's the playbook. It is in this context where Trump posts something like this. Poll numbers down, favorability down the tubes, economy sucks, all these wars are breaking out all over again. Everybody's deeply unhappy. What do? Let it rip with the racism, let it rip with the retard, let it rip with nativism. I know what'll get those stupid idiots back on my side. I'm going to do a racist rant. I'm going to go on Twitter and True Social, and I'm going to let it rip. And I'm going to be obnoxious and belligerent and politically incorrect and brash and controversial. And I'm going to say something so shocking, so edgy, so ridiculous that everyone is going to be talking about this and not that. Everyone's going to be talking about how I called Tim Walz a retard. Everyone's going to be talking about how I said this about Ilhan Omar.
Okay, so the opinion that, curtailing immigration and putting a halt to immigration from the third world is anyway racist, that's more like a CNN and MSNBC opinion than I would have expected to hear from Nick Fuentes. That's not racist at all whatsoever. Regardless of how you feel at immigration, I know that is like the liberal establishment retort to that, but that's what you get out of CNN and MSNBC. Nothing about what Trump said was racist. So I'm kind of confused why Nick is saying that, but I am with him. This is exactly what they do. They use these distraction tactics, and quite frankly, they've worked in the past. It was enough to get a large portion of the Republican base to support Trump just because he clowned Elizabeth Warren. He got her to release her DNA test, showing that, hilariously enough, she was 1/1024th of a Native American when she had claimed to be a Native American and basically got some benefits in her ascension to politics and in her career because of saying that. That's funny. I get it. It's worth clowning. I love to clown that. But that isn't enough when it comes to policy. When you're promising drain the swamp and no new wars, and all of these promises that Trump made to his base and his coalition, and you don't follow through with them, it's just a distraction without any payoff. And that's what people that see through these things are sick of. I'm with Nick on that.
I'm going to pack 15 pounds of shit in a 10-pound bag of controversy and rage bait and clip farming so that nobody's going to pay attention to the fact that we didn't even release the October jobs report because it was so bad. No one's paying attention to a war in Venezuela that nobody wants. No one's paying attention to Black Friday consumer trends being a disaster, the job market failing.
All right, I'm with him on this, but he supported the regime change effort in Venezuela just days ago on his show. You can find the clips of that online. If you even just search Twitter for Nick Fuentes supports Venezuela regime change, he supports that. So it's not that nobody supports that, but in general, that's true. Like, no one of repute supports that. It's not like Trump had a mandate for that when he won political office, but Nick himself has said he's supportive in that. If he's changing his mind, I'll commend him. Thank you for changing your mind, because that's a retarded idea to get in yet another war when there you have Ukraine, you have the genocide in Gaza with a ceasefire, but we're still bankrolling it. You have the potential to resume war with Iran. Good.
No one pay any attention to the complete and utter disaster. Republicans might lose their majority in the House before the midterms because so many people are jumping ship. But don't look at that. Look at my racist rant. Look at my stupid little rant on True Social that I'm not actually going to do shit about. I'm not going to follow through on any of it. That's the best part. It's not, I'm going to satisfy my base responding to their needs and demands. No, I am going to pander to my base as though I give a shit about what they want to distract them from how I'm betraying them in every other way, including the ways in which I'm pandering to them about. That's what this is. That's what this always is. I'll give you examples. In the 2018 midterms, after Trump was elected in 2016, it was clear that we were headed for a blue wave. There were already very bad signs. We lost the Senate special election in Alabama. We lost another special election in suburban Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. There were a lot of warning signs that 2018 was going to be a bloodbath. And by 2018, they did the same thing, which is instead of giving money for a border wall and fixing immigration, they did a corporate tax cut. They did the same thing. They squandered their budget measure on trying to repeal Obamacare and failing. And then they squandered the second one on the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
Well, that isn't mutually exclusive. They could have done both. This doesn't really make sense, and again, it goes contrary to Nick's complaints. When U.S. jobs go overseas, a large portion of that was because of the corporate tax, which was the highest in the modern world. It literally was the highest from, I think, at least 2010 to 2017, before that was cut. And that can happen in isolation, or both things can happen. The two weren't intrinsically combined such that you couldn't have one without the other. So that part I don't really understand. And also, Nick seems to, again, be renewing this idea that Trump's True Social post was a racist rant. That seems, again, more akin to what the liberal establishment has said about Trump than what the right would say about Trump if they actually want those policies of halting illegal immigration and halting immigration from the third world. So it almost seems like he is just propagandizing the liberal establishment line on that post. It's weird. I don't know exactly why. Say what you want about his motives, but that is my interpretation of it.
Which is the corporate tax cut. There was no border wall. There was no immigration reform. And so what did Trump do to get Republicans to turn out in the 2018 midterms? He deployed the National Guard to the border. And he went to rallies and said, we're going to call ourselves nationalists again. We're going to use that word again. The midterms came and went. Republicans got destroyed. And what happened? Trump pulled the National Guard back from the border almost immediately. And we never heard him say the word nationalist ever again. They do this every time. Trump knows his base. He knows his people. He knows what they want. He knows what they want to hear, and he always has. And what does it tell you that he can flip a switch like this? For the past year and a half, you know what we heard about immigration? We heard we need the people. Americans have no talent. We need Indians. We're going to staple green cards to diplomas. We need the farm workers. We need the hospitality workers. The radical right won't like this, but they'll understand. We're not going to deport people at Home Depot or meatpacking plants. He's been saying that for a year and a half.
Yeah, Nick's right about that. Trump has sided with Vivek and Elon Musk on H-1Bs, and that's a controversial issue among the Republican base, whether or not to allow or even expand the H-1B program. Trump has sided with Vivek and Elon on that. Doesn't exactly bode well for a lot of right-wing dissidents that hate that, for sure. And this just shows the game that Trump often plays, where the 4D chess that he plays, it isn't fully mythical. It is mythical when it comes to the idea he's actually doing this to undermine like the deep state and the worst excesses of the modern U.S. government. But he actually does play 4D chess against his base by throwing out this red meat that he never follows up in, especially in times where he's under fire, especially over the Epstein story, under Venezuela, which no one wants. Nick was right about saying that no one wants about it, but that's what you have here.
What does it tell you? Now that his poll numbers are in the tubes, he could write something like this. Like he flipped a switch. Last week, he goes in an interview and says, Americans have no talent. You think we could pull somebody out of an unemployment line and have them build a Hyundai? You can't. Who's going to build our missiles for us? Americans don't have the talent. We need the immigrants. And then 1 week later, he lets something like that rip where he goes, immigrants are coming here. We have the biggest foreign-born population. They're wrecking society, and no one wants to say anything because they feel guilty. We got to get them out. What does it tell you if he could flip a switch? It means that he knows. He knows. He knows what you want. He knows what you're asking for. He knows what you expect him to deliver. But he refuses to give it to you. Why? Because he knows he doesn't need to. He only brings that out in an emergency. If he can get you to vote without doing those things, he won't do it. If he doesn't think he needs to pander to you, he won't. He will pander to the billionaires because he needs their money.
This is so true. Every word of that, I totally agree with. That is Trump's game. It does show you deep down on a level he does know what the base wants, but he refuses to deliver it because it stands in contradiction to the billionaire donor class, which is headed by people like Miriam Adelson, who wanted to stack his administration full of Israel First stooges. And to be an Israel First stooge, you also had to be intrinsically connected to the banks, the military-industrial complex, the mass corporate welfare schemes in the country, the regulatory industry, and none of that can truly be chipped away at that point because he's not exactly beholden to his base anymore. He doesn't have to have their votes anymore. It does jeopardize to some extent the rest of his agenda if he doesn't deliver. You know, representatives have already peeled off his position on Epstein, obviously so, and for good reason. But at the same time, he can get away with a lot that will satisfy the rich donor base, but not the base that elected him. This is American politics in a nutshell. It's the lobbies maintain the real power. It's actually not really in the president. It's in the deep state and the lobbies, which control these presidents and remain regardless of who you elect. No matter who you elect, you always get John McCain. That's what my friend Tom Woods said famously, and it's caught on like wildfire for good reason, because it's true.
But when he's losing support catastrophically, he knows just which buttons to press, just which levers to pull, just the right words to say. I mean, if you read that post like I just did, you must be thinking, this is amazing. This is awesome. Where's this guy? That guy doesn't exist. It's an act. It's an appeal. People say, are we going to get the 2016 Trump back? Oh, I think this is 2016 Trump. 2016 Trump is a marketing strategy. It's like the fucking green M&M. Okay? It is like the Geico Gecko. It is a marketing gimmick. It is like when McDonald's plays Monopoly. It's a marketing gimmick to get you through the door to buy the product. And people go, where was this Trump? That Trump never existed. That is a face that Trump puts on when he desperately needs people to stick with him. And as soon as he gets you back, he takes it off and goes back to taking care of business. That's what happens.
Yeah, Nick's exactly right there. I can buy every word of like the last 2 minutes of this video clip because that is how Trump does things. Trump 2016 is a marketing plan. It's a marketing vehicle. What do we see from the Trump administration, the first one? It's like expanding the wars in Syria and Yemen. It is placing in prominent positions people like, I don't know, John Bolton and Mike Pompeo. Not exactly the Drain the Swampers, the true Drain the Swampers would have ever wanted. It's more spending. It's invoking the Emergencies Act at the end of his administration to give the state governors cover to unleash totalitarianism in America for religious worship restrictions, shutting down businesses, political assembly rights dissolved, making poor and old grandparents die alone without their families, a 6-foot rule. Opening the door for that was Trump's decision, and he stood by Fauci all the way. Sometimes he'd say in the media things that would contradict Fauci, but he sure as hell never dismissed Fauci or forced him to resign, and he had the power to do that, right? That is what we got. We also get the CARES Act, the biggest wealth transfer from the middle class to the rich in U.S. history. That is what you got from this corporate welfare scheme, which was created by the feds through gain-of-function research and the NIH in the Wuhan lab. That is what you got under Trump. So a lot of people opened their eyes after that. But then there's another 4-year stretch in which Biden was president. Whether or not you think he was legitimately elected, whatever, you decide on that. But then he duped people again doing the same thing. This time it would be the Doge promises. And we're going to drag the neocons again on the campaign trail like Liz Cheney in the last week of the campaign. Great rhetoric. I'm going to say that I'm going to end the war in Ukraine day one. Great rhetoric. This time we're going to take it to the state. I've learned my lessons from putting, bad people around me, surrounding myself with bad people. And then he gets in there, and the moment he gets in, he puts Marco Rubio as the most powerful person in his cabinet, and Mike Waltz as arguably number 2. And then when Mike Waltz is gone, well, we're just going to have Rubio, the neocon, fill in for the neocon that left. And we're going to have Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. And we're going to have Mike Huckabee as the ambassador to Israel. And we're going to have new wars in Iran, bombing spree in Yemen, continue to bomb Somalia, a story that's not talked about at all, welcome the Al-Qaeda leader of Syria into the White House in abject treason. And that is what we're getting from this administration. No payoffs, even among his base, even among his stated objectives. Very few payoffs have happened. Yeah, he has a trade war going, and that's a fight in the courts. He might end up losing that in the courts, but he is trying to ram protectionist tariffs down the throats of Americans who do pay that tax. It isn't China and India that pay those taxes in Russia. It's American citizens. But other than that, there's not much to gloat about. And a lot of people were duped for a second time. I'm not one of them, not trying to boast. I'm just saying that I'm seeing a lot of people in my comment section saying, hey, I admit I was duped again, but now, I'm against this thing. And that's the attitude of basically every dissident out there. And I think Nick is harnessing that a lot in this video, despite some of the things I disagreed with here. Largely, he's right. This is how Trump operates. It's how he operates to dupe his base, and that's the real 4D chess. It's not using 4D chess to own the political establishment. It's using 4D chess to be co-opted by the political establishment and weaponize his propaganda against his own base. That's what it is. But what do you guys think? Do you think Nick is correct here? What do you think about the Trump administration? Is it just totally irredeemable now? Are they going to lose the midterms? What does this mean for trust among the American people and right-wing populism in general? Is it just going to die out? Are the neocons going to just completely take over again, even though it already seems to me like they kind of have? Is Bill Kristol going to leave the Democratic Party and rejoin the Republicans now? You guys let me know in the comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also, if you like this video, please consider becoming a YouTube member of mine. You can do that by clicking the join button below. And if you do that, you can get access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. So you'll be able to see those members only videos immediately. And I really appreciate your support if you do that. Also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link in the description below. It'll shoot you off to a site. You just put in your email in the box there, and I'll shoot you that book in PDF form, free of charge, no obligation, just because I appreciate you watching. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.